Hey, thanks for watching. So today I'm going to be reviewing Rivers of London by Ben Aaronovitch, which is an urban fantasy. It follows Peter Grant, who is a constable in his probationary period with the London Metropolitan Police, and his dream is to be a good copper and make his way to detective. However, at the end of his probationary period, he learns that he's actually headed for a desk job, which kind of puts a damper on his spirits. Meanwhile, his not not love interest, but lusty interest, Leslie, she seems to be on the fast track for detective. Well, they're out one night on night shift after a particularly grisly murder in which somebody gets their head lopped off. And Leslie goes to get coffee, and it's this moment that really is the catalyst for the rest of the story, because as Leslie goes and gets coffee, Peter finds himself having a conversation with a ghost. And the ghost gives him some information about the murder and tells him that the suspect, his face changed. And at first, Peter's like, no, 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 I don't believe in ghosts. I'm not going to tell anybody about this because I don't believe in ghosts and I believe in facts and tangible evidence. But eventually he does break down and tell somebody. And it's at that point where we meet Thomas Nightingale, Chief Inspector Thomas Nightingale, who takes Peter under his wing, and Peter becomes a wizard's apprentice because Thomas Nightingale is a wizard. And it's slow going. The magic here is slow going. It's not abracadabra. You don't say a word and something happens. It's not wave a wand and the spell occurs. It takes mental focus, and it also draws from somewhere, but I don't think that they're really sure where it draws from at the beginning. Peter does come to understand that it does actually draw from somewhere, which is why certain things can't be around him when he's doing his spell because they fill with sand. It's really interesting to see how Peter, who is young and new to the magic, is finding things that maybe Thomas Nightingale hadn't really looked into too much before. There's other murders that take place while they're investigating this original beheading. And also, there's a territory feud going on between the gods and goddesses of the rivers of London. Now, the gods and goddesses, the personifications of the rivers, are, from what I understood, mostly people who had unalived themselves by throwing themselves into the corresponding river that they became the god or goddess of. And the original god of the Thames, Father Thames, he had moved away from, I guess, the city area of the Thames, and that is when Mother Thames came in, and they're not together. It's not like mommy and daddy, like, no, that's like Father Thames, and then also separately with a different family, Mother Thames. And Father Thames seems to be trying to, I guess, make his way back into the area where Mother Thames has taken over. And I believe it had something to do with his children and them wanting certain areas. And Peter finds himself trying to be the one to call a truce between them and kind of calm everything down. So, on the one hand, you have Peter the constable who is still needing to do his job as a constable, and then you have Peter the wizard's apprentice who is needing to learn magic and look into the supernatural part of the murders that are taking place. And then you also have Peter the mediator between the gods and goddesses of the rivers of London. It's a really interesting story. It was a pleasure to read. I found myself more than once laughing out loud as I read this in bed, and waking up my husband, who was like, what are you laughing at?" But I will say after the investigation, that is the main part of the book. That's the main story. Peter finds himself in the midst of another investigation, which it was jarring when it came in because you get through, Peter the constable, Peter the wizard's apprentice, Peter the mediator, and you get to the end of the book. And I'm not saying that the rest of the book is PG or even PG-13. It's an adult book, and there's adult humor and there's adult themes in it. But you get to the end, and the next investigation that starts is a case of vagina dentata and the case of the missing penis. And if it seems like that's shocking and it came out of left field, that's how I felt when I was reading it. And at which point I was like, I don't know whether the author himself felt that he needed something raunchy and weird thrown in to, I don't know, up the ante on the story, or whether somebody told him your story is too docile, you need to throw something raunchy and throw something weird in. And he was like, I got this. It was really weird. I don't want to necessarily say off-putting, but it was definitely jarring thrown in at the end there. It felt like a completely different story tone. So I'm going to file that in the complaints section of the story. And if you watched my review of Polybius by Colin Armstrong, you'll know the story behind the book, which is a game and government using the game for mind control and stuff like that. After I read the book and I did the review, my husband's boss told him about a YouTube channel called Y-Files. And he had me watch a few videos with him, and I was like, this guy is annoying. His fish is annoying. His camel's annoying. But he was going through the videos, and I saw a video on Polybius. I was like, no, I want to watch that. So we watched the video, and the guy on Y-Files is talking about this game. And I know that there was a game called Polybius before the book, but I didn't realize that it was such an old game, and that this old game had links to a potential government mind control experiment in the 80s. And so as I'm watching this video, I'm like, this guy on Y-Files, man, he just took Colin Armstrong's book and now he's making it into a video like it's an urban legend and he just found it. But then I looked at the date, and it was a 10-year-old video. I was like, well then, I got that wrong. So as I started to prepare for this video review, I decided to go and look up other videos about Rivers of London by Ben Aaronovitch. And now I'm wondering if, as Americans, we're doing our book obsessions wrong, because not only is there a comic book spin-off of this, which is not entirely unheard of, but there's also fan-made book trailers, which is also maybe not entirely unheard of, but those two are not exactly common occurrences with book obsessions as far as I can tell. But there is also, and I'll put these links in the description below. There's also a song and a music video and a role-playing game. And I mean, anybody who's obsessed with Wheel of Time knows that if there's a game like related to a book that we're obsessed with, we're probably going to play it regardless of the quality. So it was interesting going through some of these videos. There's also videos of the author talking to the person who does the audiobook, who reads the audiobook. And there's a huge obsession with this person who does the audiobook, as is wont to happen with people who listen to audiobooks. They like who they like, and if there's a person doing the book that they like, they want them to continue with. So the conversation between the author and the reader was very interesting. There's also a video where the author takes you around to some of the places he mentions in the book, so you kind of get a feel if you've never been to London to that locale, you kind of get a feel for the place in the book. So that was really interesting. Overall, I would say I'm probably gonna end up giving it like a 3 star on Goodreads, which isn't exactly fair. It's more like a 3.25 or 3.5, but it is what it is. So, but I'm not entirely certain if I'm going to continue with the series. So we'll see. But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe below.